That's not what it says. I heard the words before I realized they were mine, like a reflex, like touching a hot pan and pulling back, and the whole room froze. Forks, mid-air laughter cut clean, the kind of silence where your heartbeat feels like you're breaking a rule. We were 40 floors up at Rainlight Tower in Seattle, glass, humming with wind, one long table under orchids too white to be real. A leather folder in front of the guest of honor holding a $600 million promise that smelled like fresh ink and old arrogance. And me, Noel Carter, a server in a black apron with a tray of Pinot, suddenly the loudest thing in a room that makes noise for a living. I wasn't supposed to speak, I was supposed to pour and smile and vanish. Marigold Rooftop trains you fast. Keep your tone friendly, but not familiar. Glide like smoke if a man in a navy suit snaps his fingers, pretend he's clapping for the ambiance. And if someone calls you sweetheart, or says you're so articulate like it's a surprise, you swallow the sting with the bubbly and keep moving. But some rules sit deeper than a schedule. The porch swing rules my grandfather Louis taught me, the ones that sound like curiosity, but live like courage. He learned Japanese after the war, one notebook at a time, and when I was a kid, he'd point at robins and rain and say the words in both languages until they felt like two hands on the same heartbeat. And I never guessed that one day those porch words would be the only thing between truth and a trap. Damon Whitaker ran the show that night. America's favorite finance story, red tie, camera smile. A man who entered rooms like he was renting them by the minute. And across from him sat Hiroshi Senda of Shiranami Consortium. Quiet, composed, the kind of dignified stillness that makes you sit up straighter without knowing why. Damon's pitch was shiny and confident, dual language contract, transparency, partnership, legacy, all the comforting words. But the plan under the table was simpler and uglier. A freelancer told to massage the Japanese text, so the English sounded warm and vague, while the Japanese sliced clean in Section 9. If the dollar-yen spread shifts 3% for reasons not directly tied to the venture, then Whitaker Ridge gets administrative control of a Shiranami U.S. subsidiary temporary. Of course, that word's so stretchy it can cover a year if you don't watch it. Legal choreography, the kind that works when nobody checks both mirrors at once. Before dessert, a guy in a blue blazer from Texas looked me over like a spreadsheet and told the table, not me, she walks like she knows people are watching, and someone else laughed. She probably can't find Japan on a map, but she can find your glass, and Damon smiled the way men smile when they need to be on the right side of laughter, and said she's here to pour, not to think. And yeah, that happened. And I set the bottle down at a side station and told my lungs to mind their business. Then the folder opened, heavy paper, pretending to be honor English on one side, Japanese on the other, and a single kanji snagged my eye like a fishhook. Old friend from my grandfather's letters. And I wasn't trying to read. I was trying to be invisible, but once your brain grabs a thread, it tugs without permission. And there it was, 3% administrative control, undefined, temporary. The English said good faith and currency adjustments. The Japanese said hand me the wheel if the road gets bumpy. So I said it out loud. Damon's head snapped, smile on his face, but not in his eyes. Excuse me. You are, he said. Like he was ordering off a menu, and I told him my name and what I'd seen, and he dropped the smile and put on the other face, the weather warning voice. You are a waitress. You pour liquid into glasses. You do not perform legal analysis. Go back to the kitchen, or you're done here. And my body wanted to fold, to obey, to keep the rent calm. But I looked at Senda and said in English, you were told the versions were identical, they are not. Senda didn't blink, he asked me in Japanese. One clean question. What exactly did you read? And I felt my grandfather's porch under my feet, even though there was engineered oak under my shoes, and I answered in his language quietly, so I wouldn't scare the moment away. Sumimasen Sendasama Section 9 assigns administrative control to Whitaker Ridge after a 3% currency move undefined temporary. That clause is not in the English, and the translator on Damon's left went pale like a truth had finally found his throat. Evan Damon said, "Say the versions align now." And Evan's mouth opened and closed like a door you couldn't decide about. Then he said, "I can't, she's right. You paid me $25,000 in cash to insert it, and you said Japanese counsel wouldn't check, because the English is what matters here." And the room breathed in like a single animal and forgot how to breathe out. Senda looked at me, not Damon, and asked who taught you still in Japanese, because respect is a choice, and I told him my grandfather, a Navy medic who learned after the war, because he believed you truly know people when you learn their words. And Senda's face shifted something gentle, turning on behind his eyes, and he pulled a small worn envelope from his jacket, slid a black and white photo across the table. Two young men sitting shoulder to shoulder in front of a broken farmhouse, one in an American uniform, with my grandfather's jawline, one bandaged alive and relieved, and my breath left the room before the words did. That's him, that's Lewis. My grandfather Toru carried this until he died. Senda said an American medic pulled him from a collapsed wall, shared water, shared a piece of chocolate. No shared language, only shared heart. We wrote letters after the war but never found him. And he bowed his head just enough to bend the air and said, "Tonight, perhaps a debt meets its receiver." Damon tried one more time to puppeteer reality, Mr. Senda. "Let's be reasonable. We'll remove the clause, we can repair trust," and Senda stood steady as winter. "We do not repair trust by pretending it wasn't broken. We acknowledge who broke it." And then he turned to me. "Miss Carter, thank you for your voice." 48 hours later, the recording leaked screenshots hit the news. English beside Japanese like an X-ray no one could unsee. Whitaker Ridge slid 27% by close, then another 10 by Friday. The board discovered their spines and walked Damon past a lobby full of people looking at their phones. Federal investigators did what they do when a story rings loud enough. Emails, interviews, deals for cooperation, and suddenly nobody wanted Damon's name on their letterhead. At home, the quiet felt different. Not the before-storm kind, the after-storm kind, where the air finally lets you breathe. My mom cried in our kitchen, shoulders shaking in this honest way that made me grab the counter with her not sad tears, the kind that happen when relief shows up with both hands open. A week later, Senda called me himself. No assistant, no theater. Thanked me, told me the Shiranami Foundation would fund a full scholarship, any university, any program, tuition, housing, groceries, that didn't come with a calculator in my head. And they offered my mom a full-time role in their Seattle office with benefits and a title that said what she had always been essential. We moved to a place with windows that catch the morning on purpose, 2 bedrooms, a little balcony, where basil and mint and 3 stubborn tomatoes pretend they own the city. I applied to Georgetown for international relations, because some roads are laid by porch swing lessons, and it feels right to keep walking. And when the acceptance email landed, I read it 4 times just to be sure the words were really meant to sit in my hands. People ask if Damon went to prison. Not yet. And whether I ruined a man's career as if careers are born innocent and die by accident, and whether I'm scared because powerful men have long memories. Sometimes I am. But mostly, I'm tired of pretending my eyes are rude for noticing. I still work shifts when school allows. I love the choreography, the team sport of a good night. But I don't try to disappear anymore, not because I got loud, but because I stopped apologizing for standing how I stand. The clean ending would be Whitaker Ridge hiring a caretaker CEO who says culture and compliance like they're vitamins, Evan teaching at a language school, while he waits to see what the government wants next, my mom hanging a framed copy of that photograph with a note from Senda, that says your family gave mine time, we give yours time in return. That's what money is supposed to do when it remembers its place, make time. But the truth is, endings aren't that clean. Last week, a letter without postage slid under our door, a blog calling me a liar. Anonymous sources with anonymous courage said. The clause was standard practice, and I didn't understand real finance, said Damon. Was a victim of outrage, and I held that letter and felt the old heat rise and wanted to burn it, or post it, or write it like a victory lap, but instead, I put it in a drawer under the photograph, because some arguments are just distractions, wearing costumes, and the truth doesn't need me to shout. It needs me to keep telling it when people try to rewrite it. So that's my short version, the part that fits between the beginning and the day I stop looking at that photo every morning. If you've ever been the person at the edge of the room who sees the thing everyone else wants to pretend isn't there, if you've ever swallowed your words because the job or the grade or the invitation mattered more than the mirror, I know that weight. I'm not telling you to blow your life up to make a point. I'm saying learn the words that help you hear the room's heartbeat, and when the moment comes and you know silence will haunt you, trust the porch lessons and say the thing. If this hit you anywhere tender, tell me where you're watching from. Tell me if Damon deserves a second chance or if public shame counts as a sentence. Tell me when you've seen a room stacked against someone and what happened when they spoke anyway. Drop your stories, your disagreements, you know what I mean? Hit like if you want more than headlines. Subscribe if you're here for the messy human middle where right and wrong fight for space. I can't promise perfect, but I can promise this. We won't look away.